The Tennessee Vols are taking on Alabama on the third Saturday of October.
We're about to hang Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Mildew a Big Al.
This is the PCS Volcast. Today we're going to be going over our thoughts, the key stats, and our PCS predictions at the end. So let's start with our thoughts.
Well, I'm sorry. Before we start, I just want to let everyone know I'm from Alabama, and that is by no means an admittance to being an Alabama fan. I've been a Tennessee fan all my life. I've had to live around obnoxious Alabama fans and sad Auburn fans forever. So this game always means a little bit more to me. I've escaped. I live in Tennessee now, but yeah, still it's a huge game for multiple reasons.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that, man.
It's all right. I've lived through it. It's all right.
So both of these teams are coming off some pretty ugly wins. I think Tennessee's might be a little bit uglier than Bama's, but we always expect that going up against Florida. What we didn't expect was Bama to keep it close with South Carolina, and not only that, but they had the chance to tie it at the end.
If South Carolina was any better, they would have won that game. Just two horrible decisions and throws by Lenore Sellers, the South Carolina quarterback, to end it. But yeah, both these teams are not only coming off a sloppy win, but a loss and then a sloppy win. So both of these teams are kind of in shambles right now. Thank the Lord this game is at Tennessee, because if it wasn't, it could get ugly pretty quick.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. Coming into the bye week, I was feeling really good about our team. I was feeling really good about Nico. I'm embarrassed to say this. I thought he had some Heisman potential. I thought our receivers were just going to continue going off this year. And Samson has been doing exactly what I thought he would, and so has the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But is that enough to win this game?
This game is at 3:30 on ABC. Obviously, Tennessee is home at Neyland Stadium, over under 56.5, and Bama is favored by 3. I think they could be favored by more, considering how we've been playing sloppy. But as you said, Alabama's also been playing sloppy. So let's take a look at some key stats real quick. For Alabama, they have probably the best running back duo in the country. Jam Miller has run for 360 yards, 5 touchdowns with a 7.1 yards per carry. And Justice Haynes right behind him, 39 carries for 249 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. I mean, they're pretty much as efficient as you can get. Oh, and not to mention their leading ball carrier is Jalen Milroe, their quarterback. 77 for 319, 11 touchdowns on the ground. That's insane, and 4.1 yards per carry, which honestly isn't bad considering the volume. In the air, he's 73% completion percentage, almost 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns in the air, 4 interceptions. That's still not great, 4 picks, but it's a lot better than last year. He's been sacked a little bit more than you'd want him to, which is in our favor. 11 sacks taken, which is top 25 percentile. And then, of course, their standout player, Ryan Williams, league high 25 yards per catch. I mean, he's going a quarter of the field every time he touches the ball.
Yeah.
576 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think the scariest part about Milroe is his legs.
Yeah.
The first question we had with a running quarterback was Jackson Arnold, and obviously we were able to bottle him up just fine. I don't think the same can be said with Milroe. I've seen him make moves that I just have never even seen before. This guy is insane with his legs, and then he's able to just chuck it down the field when he needs to. So it doesn't help that we lost our senior linebacker last week, but even with him, I'd say we wouldn't be able to stop Milroe's legs, to be honest.
Our linebacking core hasn't been great this season. I mean, it's not going to help that Peely's out. T-Lander will have to step up. We'll probably see more Boo Carter, the true freshman, around the box area of the field. And then Arian Carter, who's already kind of stepped up as a leader, the sophomore. Well, everything's on his plate now. I assume he'll be the number 1 leader of the defense. But will it be enough to stop Milroe? No, I'm going to tell you right now it's not. You can't stop Jalen Milroe. The only thing that can stop him is either play calling from DeBoer or himself. He's been making a few boneheaded plays this year, but not enough to, in my opinion, to drop him out of that number 1 quarterback in the SEC spot. Either Ewers would have to go off in multiple games, or Milroe just have to fall off a cliff for that to happen. But what's interesting, I think that Alabama should move away maybe a little bit from Milroe throwing, and they should become a full-on running team. obviously their biggest weakness this year has been their defense, the ability to just kind of pick apart their secondary, which, don't get me wrong, has good players, but they just haven't been very cohesive this year. If they run the ball, we know they're efficient already with their running backs and Milroe as well. But if they run the ball, take time away from their defense having to be on the field, I don't see them really losing a game the rest of this year.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not super optimistic for Tennessee's chances, but let's think about how they could win this game. First of all, Nico, he doesn't have to play amazing. I know you might believe he needs to have a super breakout game, but honestly, if he can just stop having 3 and outs, that's all we really need. If we can drive down the field, just get in field goal range, get past the 50. I mean, do something. Don't let them get yards off of a punt return. I mean, pin them on the 1 or inside the 10. We've got to be doing that more often instead of just having the defense come up clutch and having the offense do the exact opposite and give it right back to them.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving the offense so many chances that it's no wonder that we lost to Arkansas. We almost lost to Florida. If it weren't for Napier's incompetence, we should have lost to Florida.
We've been playing below average against really Oklahoma, sort of, Arkansas and Florida both. We can't play below average to win this game. I really don't think we can play average to win this game either. I think that Nico just has to have a breakout game for us to win. I think that he has to show why he's a 5-star. And, if Samson wasn't enough to win us the Arkansas game, Samson, we love you, but he's not going to be enough to win against Alabama, because Alabama defense has been weaker this year than in the past. The run defense is still pretty good, and they still have the Alabama talent that we're used to. They just haven't been playing very cohesively, and I think that's because of Nick Saban not being there. But yeah, I think Nico has to have a breakout game, or Milroe just has to have some, you remember when he was backing up Bryce Young, and really all he could do was run?
Right.
I don't see that ever coming back, because he's just gotten better, and he's a way better player under DeBoer in terms of his consistency, I guess. But he just has to have a bad game or something crazy. What's the best way that Alabama can win?
Throw it to Ryan Williams and hope that he can moss our corners. We've seen receivers get some tough catches on our corners, but I also do see Bama getting some chunk plays. It's just about when it's happening in the game. But Bama needs to hang on to the ball. They need to dominate time of possession, and then just let Milroe run, let the running backs run, and just, really force our defense to stop them or make a turnover.
Yep.
I think that's just going to be way harder than it seems.
The worst case scenario, and this is kind of true for every team that has played against the lightning strike offense that we've seen in the past, but the worst case scenario for Bama is they let Nico get some rhythm with a 75-yard pass to Dante Thornton or somebody. We haven't seen that in a few weeks, but we know it's possible because we've seen it for 2-3 years. If you're Alabama, you don't want to keep your defense out there too long, longer than it needs to. I slightly disagree with you, though, on how Alabama can win. I don't think you have to force the ball to Ryan Williams for him to be great, because that's just how he is. He surprisingly doesn't have a lot of catches this year, but he doesn't need to get 75-yard touchdowns. That's always going to be there. Milroe has the arm. Ryan Williams is a good player. That's always going to be there. If you're Alabama, run the ball. Make our defense tired. We're already down Peely, and we had a few injuries in the last game. Keep our defense on the field. You're going to get that Ryan Williams to Milroe connection. You're going to get Milroe running the ball, and you're going to get Jam and Haynes gashing you as well. So I think we have a good run defense, which is in our favor, but if you're Alabama, you cannot abandon the run. We saw Alabama abandon the run in the first half against South Carolina when it was 3rd and 18, and then Milroe throws that dumb interception to give South Carolina some hope. They followed it up with a safety, and all of a sudden the door's open. You cannot let that happen in Neyland, because the fans will go crazy and the tide will turn, no pun intended.
I think Milroe will definitely give up some kind of turnover. It's just about capitalizing off of that. Can Nico truly capitalize off of it, or is he just going to get a 3 and out? I don't know. I don't believe just based off of what I've seen the past 2 weeks, I have no reason to believe that Nico can drive us down the field every possession. Whenever I see the offense come back onto the field. I get excited, and then I remember exactly what it's going to look like. We're going to have 2 runs, a screen at the line of scrimmage for another 2 yards, and punt. I mean, it's the same thing each drive, and then every so often you'll get a shot down the field.
I don't think it'd be a bad idea because, I mean, this is a huge rivalry game for both teams. This game could theoretically snowball very quickly because Alabama's offense is good. They can hit lightning strikes to Williams. They can just steamroll us with the run. I don't think it's a bad idea to bench Nico if he's playing bad for a series or 2.
I agree.
Just sit him down, calm him down, let him go back out there.
I think if we see a turnover from Nico in the first quarter, that's game. If Nico has a turnover in the first quarter, his confidence will be shot. It's already probably not too high coming into the game. He's already hearing boos from his own fans. He has got to keep a hot hand. It's just about even getting started in the first place. I think we need our O-line to push their defense back, and we need to allow about 4 to 6 yards from Sampson every carry. Now, if Sampson can, in the first quarter, okay, this is how I see it. If we score early and look good on offense, I believe we'll win.
I'm pretty sure all of our first drives in the past few games have looked good, but they either haven't amounted to anything because we get the ball halfway through the first quarter against Arkansas, or we fumble against Florida. Yeah. So it looks like the pregame scripting from Heupel has been okay, but it's like, and in the second half too, he's come out in the second half and done pretty good.
True.
But it's like the second and fourth quarter where Heupel has been surprisingly bad for Tennessee, and everyone just has to play good. Heupel has to coach well. Nico has to have a breakout game, I think. But yeah, because this Alabama team can just snap their fingers. Even though they haven't been doing it recently, they can snap their fingers and be up 20 points on you.
I don't see screens winning us this game.
Absolutely not. And the other thing is we've seen receivers can get separation from these Alabama corners. That's not going to be an excuse. Unless our receivers are just trash for some reason, that's not going to be an excuse for Nico to play bad. Is the receivers not getting separation?
Basically, I think Tennessee's best chance is to dominate time of possession. I think Bama's going to be wanting to do the exact same thing, so that is going to be very difficult to do. We've seen Sampson get the ball twice and then Nico have an incomplete pass or a pass at the line of scrimmage for nothing. So I'm just so afraid that that's what we're going to be seeing for the majority of the game. And if I see that, I'm at my wits' end with Heupel. Either bench Nico or come up with a new game plan. Just let Nico just go out there and throw 4 picks if it means he can get more than 200 yards in a game.
I've seen somewhere that Josh Heupel has been saving a lot of our plays for tape and basically for the Alabama game. I don't believe that for a second, because if that's true, I think we should fire Heupel. I've never been a proponent of that, but if that is true, we should fire Heupel because that basically let us lose a game against Arkansas. You can't risk dangling game plans or not dangling game plans in front of teams if you lose a game. That's insane. I do hope though, and I'm going to stay confident in the Heupel and Nico duo for the rest of the time they're together. But so I have confidence that he's going to not be predictable and throw a few more wrinkles in there because this Bama defense is susceptible to those wrinkles. And as good of a offensive coach is that we've seen Heupel be, I think he knows that too.
Yeah. So who are your key players for the game?
So for Tennessee, it's Nico Iamaleava. I mean, you can say that about any game this year, but this game specifically because he's been in the mud. You told me a stat earlier. He has like a worse QBR than Jackson Arnold and Hank Brown or something. I mean, that's unacceptable. I mean, come on now. But yeah, it's definitely Nico for me. I can see a world. He's kind of a flashy kind of player. I can see a world where on the biggest stage of the season against the best opponent we've played, he, for some reason, just shows out. Do I think that's going to happen? Not really, but I can see a world where that happens. So it's definitely Nico for me as my key player.
On Tennessee's side, the key player is Dylan Sampson. I think if he ends up getting a few carries over 10 yards, that can be just enough for us. Let Nico throw the slant for 5 or the out or whatever, If we can just not have 3 and outs, we have a chance. But that starts with Sampson. That starts with him getting, anywhere from 6 to 8 yards on those 2 carries that he'll probably get on first and second down.
Yep.
And on Bama's side, the key player is Jalen Milroe. He'll probably have a turnover if I were to bet. He seems pretty calm and collected in most of his games, but he's just a little mistake prone,
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's going to do a lot more good than bad. But we need to capitalize on that is basically what I'm trying to say. And we need to stop him from rushing for over 100 yards in this game.
Right. For me, I actually kind of have 2. Number 1 is Kalen DeBoer. Can he call a game plan that limits Milroe's mistakes? On paper, Milroe hasn't looked that mistake prone. I think when you watch the games, it's a little bit more obvious that he still has some of that, mistake proneness in him, I guess. And it's actually been toward the end of important situations, the end of the half against South Carolina. That was super idiotic. At the end of the Georgia game, I think he had a pick that was pretty bad. That kind of opened the door back for Georgia. Could the same thing happen here? If DeBoer calls a lot of runs here with the 2 probably most efficient backs in the SEC and runs Milroe efficiently too, that could work. I think he ran Milroe 18 times against South Carolina, which is too much. If Milroe gets hurt at any point, Bama just drops off a lot. They're not going to be bad, but I can see them dropping off a lot. So just run Milroe efficiently, call good rushing plays for him, and the other the other key player, it's kind of in the same vein, is the Alabama running back duo. They just have to be solid. They have to stand up to this really good Tennessee front and be as efficient as they've been. They were pretty surprisingly inefficient against South Carolina, who also has a good front. But yeah, when you have a 3-headed monster on the ground like this, I think you can overcome any front in the country.
If we are sitting at 0 points at halftime, something has got to change. I don't want to see, if it's Nico's fault, I don't want to see Nico's face
he has to be benched
in the second half.
Well, no, I mean 3 shutouts in 3 games at half. That's red alert, crazy red alert. That's not, even bad teams don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Joe Milton he was never shut out in the first half. So what's going on? Is Nico not getting to his second and third reads? And when he's tucking it, it just feels like he's running right into a defensive lineman. I mean, our O-line is not helping him in any way, which, by the way, our O-line has got to step it up this game if we even want a chance.
Mm-hmm.
If we want Thornton to catch that 50-yard bomb, Nico's got to have time. If we want Sampson to, keep the possession in our hands, he's got to have room to run. He's going to make guys miss, or he's, going to run them over. But you got to give him the opportunities, in general. So
I would say, apart from Nico, but these go hand in hand, but apart from Nico, the O-line has been the most disappointing thing on the entire team.
Yeah.
I would say Nico and O-line are synonymous, I guess, because O-line play also affects Nico's play, of course. But Nico, play calling, and the O-line have all been the worst 3 things. And if we can get those fixed, we can be that top 10 team. I know we can. Our defense is top 15, top 10 in the country probably. Our receivers, I still have faith in them. Dylan Sampson, I think, is the second best running back in the whole country. But it's just that triangle of Heupel's play calling, Nico, and the O-line have damn near lost more games for us than it's won in the past 3.
I completely agree. And this game has got to be different if we want to win.
But by the way, this is the final thing we'll say, kind of what this means for both teams. Obviously, huge rivalry game. Alabama does not want to lose 2 in a row to Tennessee in Neyland. That would be a huge blemish on their record, and a huge blemish as well on Kalen DeBoer's record starting his SEC career. But obviously, it means more than that. If we lose this game, our hopes for the SEC title plummet as well for the playoffs. I don't really see a 2-loss team in the SEC title, to be honest. For Alabama, I don't think it's as important to win here for Alabama, because you have a tiebreaker win over Georgia, who has Texas the same day, and Ole Miss. You You obviously have to hope Tennessee will lose at some point. But, yeah, this is a huge game for both teams if they want to compete in the SEC and for the playoffs.
So now Jason and I are going to give our predictions, and we are going to do this through the PCS. And so if you don't know, the PCS is a really easy and fun way for you and your friends to compete against each other by predicting the final score of Tennessee Volunteer games. So Jason and I have been doing it all season. We're 6 games in, and the PCS will give you a score based off of how accurate your prediction was. The lower the better. A perfect score is 0. Last week, Jason and he got 51 points. I got 57. That's pretty good. Those are A minuses.
Our PCS season, I think, has turned around a little bit because we were doing pretty bad.
Yeah, we were predicting high scores for the Vols, and we were off.
Once we started to realize that our offense sucks and we're a sloppy team, 51 and 57 are very good.
Yeah.
What are they, both A minuses, right?
Yep, they're both A minuses. So on the year, Jace, and this is through 6 games, so we're each averaging over 100 points per prediction, but anyway. Jace is at 808. That's pretty good.
Nice.
I'm at 851, so it's close, depending on how this game goes with our predictions, because our predictions are about to be very different.
Very different. This is the most variable our predictions have been all season, so this can kind of define who wins this season between you and me.
Yeah, so predict along with us, go to the PCS online and put in your prediction, and you will get a score and your letter grade, and you can come back and tell us if you did better than us or not, all right?
Comment it below.
All right, so let's start. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I know what I just said about how this will define our season, and I'm throwing it all away. I literally said in the past 2 episodes, I'm not predicting any more high-scoring games. I just don't see a world where we can beat Alabama in a low-scoring game. Their offense is too potent. Milroe is too good. So I'm banking on exactly what my key to win was, which is Nico having a breakout game. For the record, I do not think this is actually going to happen. I'm saying that right now, and that might be crazy, whatever. But I'm going to say 30-27 UT. I cannot predict Tennessee to lose against Florida or Alabama. Every year, as long as we do this you're not going to see me predict a loss for those games. So this is how it is.
If this isn't what you think is going to happen, what do you think is going to happen?
We're going to lose. But for the PCS's sake, I don't care about that.
Okay.
I will predict 2 Milroe interceptions, 3 Nico touchdowns. I'm coping. I'm coping. I don't know.
Cope man. Yeah, so I'm also going to predict a high-scoring game, but not from UT.
Right.
I see us having a big fat 0 at halftime. I have no reason to believe we won't have that, and then I see like 2 lucky scores at near the end. So give me Bama to win 35-14.
I really hope that does not happen. Whenever we predict, there are 2 factors, right? It's like the PCS factor, which obviously you want to win in the PCS, but it's also your mental health factor. If you predict, you're predicting a Bama win. So either way, you can win, right? Emotionally, I guess. Yeah. Either you win the PCS and Bama wins, or you lose the PCS, but you win as a Tennessee fan. I'm going all in.
Yeah.
I'm going all in on UT.
I respect
it.
Look, I know UT fans, you hate to see a prediction like that, but I'm just being realistic. This is just how I genuinely feel. The offense could not be worse, and our defense is playing so good and giving us so many chances, and Heupel and Nico in the O-line can't do anything with it. And I don't see that changing against Bama. We barely beat Florida. Yeah, they barely beat South Carolina, but South Carolina could be 4-1 right now. I mean, they could be 5-1 if they had beaten Bama, but
yep.
Well, I guess it would be 4-1 after the Bama game. Anyway, either way, yeah, I know it's an ugly score for me to predict, but that's just how I feel in my heart. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I come back in the comment sections just telling me, oh, you should have believed in Tennessee. You're totally right. I should have. But right now, I just don't. Not at all.
The last thing that I'll say is if your prediction is true, especially if we have a shutout in the first half, maybe not more so Tennessee fans, but definitely the coaching staff and the players need to sit down and have a conversation about things. Going into the season, I never checked off Alabama as a win. I thought it would be a possible exciting win, but we're sitting here 3 iffy games in a row, and our whole identity has changed from what the perceived identity was going into the season. And yeah, I mean, I just think the coaches need to sit down and talk about what's happening. Like, if we can pinpoint why things aren't going the way we want, even if we don't fix them, that will help us tremendously going into next season.
Yeah,
because I mean, Nico's our guy. Like I'm going to stand behind Nico until he leaves. You know, he walks out of the door, but he's our guy. We have to mold him into the player that we want him to be, and we can't do that if we don't give him feedback and just kind of look within ourselves and figure out what's going on. Unfortunately, this Bama game is not an ideal position to do that in because of the implications and just what a huge win it would be this season, but it's got to start somewhere.
So like I said earlier, you can predict this game as well, just as easily as we did at the PCSonline.com. It's a lot of fun and it's super simple. Please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed our content. We are going to be putting out videos every single week going over the SEC and the Vols.
Right.
But this has been Shea and Jace. This is the PCS Volcast. Thank you so much for listening.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!